Hi.
Welcome, everyone. Hello, George. I'm Kate.
Hello.
I'm Move to Amend's National Director. I'm also one of Move to Amend's founders, along with, oops, you're over here, George.
Right. That's right. Right over there.
George Friday's on our board, and she's one of our founders as well. I'm coming to you from Sacramento, California, where I live. Is anything else you want to say in terms of introduction before I introduce everybody else?
Well, I want to have a chance to get people going and started, but do we have to introduce our other colleagues here first?
Well, it sounds like there's a little bit of a delay. I was inviting you to introduce yourself real quick, and then I was going to introduce everybody else. But if you'd rather me do it the other order, let me do that. So I want to introduce, yes, our colleagues on the staff team at Move to Amend, Alfonso Saldana, who's the person who's responsible for all the awesome tech today. I really enjoyed our opening. We're getting like more and more sophisticated in that, thanks to you, Alfonso. And are you in Texas or are you back in Pennsylvania?
No, I'm currently in Texas and I'm happy to be here.
Right on. And Jessica Munger is our program director and has been with us many years. And she's in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hey, everybody.
And Greg Coleridge in Cleveland, Ohio, our outreach director and longtime organizer working against corporate rule, even before Move to Amend existed. Hey, Greg.
Hello, everyone. Greetings.
So our theme for today, as the opening slides said, but I know people are still joining. This is our end of the year. We'll be doing one more at the very end of the year, but we're gearing up to close out the year. We've had a strong first session in Congress with our We the People amendment. And we want to close out the year strong because this is a key time for Move to Amend and a number of other grassroots organizations in terms of fundraising and laying the groundwork so that we can kick off the next year strong. So our theme today and really going into next year is mega billionaires / trillionaires soon versus all the rest of us. And there aren't very many organizations that are confronting that gap, willing to really say what needs to be said about what's going on and the corporate takeover of, not just our government, but our politics wide, our culture, our whole society, and the We the People amendment that will end corporate constitutional rights and allow big money to be removed from the political process is really the foundational aspect of the law that needs to happen in order for us to make it possible to have the world that we want instead of the world that we have now. And so we know that you're with us today because you're a supporter and you're all in and agree with us that this is a fundamental piece. It's not the only piece, but it's a key piece of the puzzle. And so thanks for joining us. We have a good program for you today. And I'm going to pass it over to George to ground us and get us started.
Fantastic. Thanks. And thanks for being with us today as we say goodbye to 2022 and think about and prepare for goodbye to 2021 and think about and prepare for 2022. We are approaching the winter solstice. And so one of the things I want us to think about as we start our adventure today together, and I do think our time will be an adventure for the next 90 minutes, that we think about two of the primary physical representations of the solstice, and that is the cave and the tundra, the winter solstice anyway. So no matter where you are, you're experiencing winter as winter is where you are and where you live. But for this moment, wherever you are, I want you to imagine cold and snow and ice. Breathe into that image and slow your breath if it makes you a little, I don't know. For me, my breath gets more rapid when it's cold. But for this time, we're going to be into that snow. Breathe deeply into the cold. There's a cave and there's a tundra. Let us enter the cave. It's dark all around. There's a little light behind you that gives you light into the tunnel, into the tundra, into the cave. And sit in the darkness. And as you're sitting in the darkness, slowing your breathing down a little bit, paying attention to your breath, think about and notice what is deep in that darkness and deep in yourself, deep in the work for creating real democracy, deep in the work for creating the world we want. What don't we need? What can we really let go of at this moment? What do we leave in the cave? From that darkness within yourself, imagining that you are holding on to everything you need to let go, pull that up from the darkness and lay it in the cave. All of the aspects and pieces that are not serving your goals, that are not serving you, that are not serving us with Move to Amend, that are not serving us as people that want a world where democracy is real and corporations do not control us. So you've laid that out in the cave. I want you to stand and turn around and walk out towards the tundra. It's bright. The sun reflecting off of the ice and snow is really bright, but you can see for such a long distance on the flat tundra. What do you see ahead of us? What do you see for Move to Amend in 2022? Imagine and see all the possibilities of what we can get to and create and co-create together. That's why you're here with us. That's why we exist. Because we can co-create what is needed to remove the obstacles and have real democracy, maybe for the first time. To do that, we do need the financial support of everyone on this groovy adventure we're having today, of your friends and family and coworkers and churchgoers and neighbors. Now, one of the best and in some ways easiest way to support us is by being a sustainer. So every month you're, sending on to Move to Amend $10 or $15 or $50. In fact, if you're someone who decides today that you're a new monthly donor and it's $50 or over $50, there will be a special selection of a winner on our last stream at the end of this month, and you could win an original cartoon from Michael Ripple, excellent cartoonist. So become a recurring donor. It helps make sure we're ready and able to move through the year and get the work done that needs to happen to remove any obstacles and get us there. Thanks for that adventure, or the beginning of the adventure we're having today. I like the cave in the frozen tundra when it's not necessarily something I've got to walk on bare feet. So that was fun for me, and hopefully an adventure for you. So we're going to hear today from some wonderful people who are on the screen with us, whatever this virtual world we're having together. And I want you to welcome the first person that we're going to see. Unless, Caitlin, you'd rather introduce this person since they're a California person. What do you say?
Sure, I can do it. That will also give me a chance to just say one little thing that people can do right this minute to help us out. Obviously, you can make a donation, like George said, but also whatever platform you're tuning in, this is what I'm doing right now. Please, retweet, share on your Facebook, invite your friends to come tune in too. they might not know about Move to Amend yet, and this will be an excellent introduction to our work, which we know you support, but let's get more people here. So yeah, I'm honored. Thank you, George, for letting me be the one to introduce Margaret Coster. Margaret and I have worked together for a long time. In fact, we lived together for a little while when Move to Amend was up in Humboldt County, California, and in my house. And she came and worked with us. She also has done a lot of work in her own community in Mendocino County, California. It is still the only California county that passed a ballot initiative in support of the We the People Amendment. Other communities have gotten their supervisors and their county commissioners to pass resolutions in support, but in Mendocino, the voters actually did it. And that helped inspire our whole state to go on to pass a ballot initiative. So Margaret is a longtime Move to Amend veteran, and we owe so much to her dedication and commitment. And so it's fitting that she would be our first grassroots organizer from Move to Amend, who's going to hop on the screen and talk about why she's involved. Take it away, Margaret. Oops, but yeah, don't forget to unmute yourself.
Yes. Okay, here we go. Here I go. So, gosh, why I'm involved, because the simple reason, and for the same reason a lot of people are, is because everything else I've cared about and worked for my whole life as an activist, which started in college, is connected to corporate power. So, the longer I deal with this, the more I realize that everything we do and everything we accomplish can be undermined by corporate so-called rights. And also, as I like to remind people, it isn't laws that have given corporations power. It's been court rulings. So only an amendment is Supreme Court proof. So that is why an amendment is absolutely essential. Legislative remedies can be helpful, but as we know, the Citizens United decision overturned legislation, campaign finance legislation. So we really do need an amendment. So after we had our ballot campaign, which was successful because a lot of people in the community that were already involved and already active jumped on. So we had a great network of volunteers. So collecting signatures, which was the biggest part of getting on the ballot, and then promoting the initiative and getting on the radio and getting letters to the editor and stuff like that. So that all worked. It was a lot of work, but I wouldn't say it was hard, actually. And then we got our congressperson, newly elected, to be one of the first co-sponsors. And the fact that we had this ballot initiative, and then every city council and the board of supervisors all passed resolutions. So we're not the only county in his district, but we had mounted a successful effort, and we had that to rely on. It wasn't hard with respect to the issue because he's pretty progressive Democrat, but he had to stick his neck out and be one of the first people to sign on to something new, and he did that. And I like to quote what he said. We approached him at the Labor Day picnic that the Democrats have in the county every year because we'd been lobbying him, and he said, quote, not to me, but this is what I heard: "You can stop pounding on my door. I'm going to do it." So it's just really important to know that effort, sustained effort, repeated effort is what it takes, and you can succeed. Also, for people who are in districts where their elected representatives are not very cooperative or not very likely, I think it's important to just keep at it. I always remember that it took 70 years for women to get the vote from the beginning of the campaign until the amendment was finally passed. So I don't think ours will take that long. I hope it won't take that long. But as the I Ching says, people of my generation will know the I Ching, perseverance furthers. The other thing I wanted to say is I had never approached an elected person with a request before. I'd been politically active. I'd been in campaigns, signed petitions, gone on marches, stuff like that. But I had to up my game for this effort to get our congressperson to sign on. And with the help of the staff at Move to Amend and the support of all our great volunteers here, we did it. And when we won, when we got him to do that, we were actually kind of amazed that we did it. We influenced a congressperson. And since then, I've been more willing, and I have contacted elected people, written them letters, called their office, written letters to the editor and stuff like that. So the success and the great feeling that it gave has helped me to move up to I would say, a higher level of activism. So Move to Amend is really important. We really need an amendment. Laws are good, but an amendment is essential. And the more you do, the more you can do. So that's my message. And I am a monthly sustainer. I'm a retired person on a fixed income, but I don't notice the amount of money that I give every month. It's not a lot, but it is every month. So I really encourage you to be a sustainer. So that's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Margaret. I love hearing the examples of how folks who already, pretty empowered activists, but just the experience of, actually being able to make your congressperson do something carries on beyond just the example of, doing it and Move to Amend. I wanted to pop in before we pass it over to Greg to thank Milton in Westbury, New York, for being our first person to donate during this live stream. So please, everyone out there, if you can make a donation, we're trying to raise $40,000 between now and the end of the year. And every little bit counts, and that's how we do it every single year. And we have a couple folks who maybe give 1,000 or so, but almost everybody is really giving 100, maybe 50, even 10, 5. If everybody gives what you can, then we will make our goal and we will be able to continue strong into 2022. So thank you, Milton. And it would be great if you would join him. You can go to movetoamend.org/donate and get in on this. I always like to donate during these things because it makes it more fun. and I'll be happy to give you a shout out as we go if you do it as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Greg now. Oops, I keep on doing the wrong direction. Greg.
Well, hello, everyone. Good to be with you here on this day at this event to celebrate International Human Rights. That's what today is, the anniversary of the UN Declaration of Human Rights, a document that seeks to affirm that every single person in this world should have basic social, economic, religious, political, and other rights that allow us all to not live but to thrive. And abolishing corporate personhood and money as speech, which is what our amendment is about, which is what we're about, is what we've been about. And that's why what we do and why it's so appropriate to have this event on this day. Okay, I was asked to share, hey, with a name like Coleridge, there's expectations that you should be able to write poetry. Boy, that is not true. Nowhere near the Samuel Taylor variety of Coleridge, but I have put together a few things. Hopefully they aren't all that bad, but they are related to Move to Amend and democracy related. So here's a couple of limericks and sort of close to limericks. The first was inspired by the words of former presidential candidate Mitt Romney. Among some groups, the current trend is to just work to Citizens United End. But what we feel and what we spiel is that corporations are not people, my friend. Second one is a piece dedicated to the, I guess you could say, dastardly doings of the U.S. Supreme Court while they're on the bench and maybe while they're off. So you be the judge. Claims that corporations are persons by the High Court to existing amendments have been a major contort. So we must ask and seek to unmask what up their noses did deciding justices. I think that's a fair question, don't you? Given that they've sort of bizarrely determined that corporations are people and money, pieces of paper, are have free speech. Bizarre. The next, I want to say, inspired by, more like based on what took place on January 6th and other actions at the Capitol over the past 2 years. While the democracy crisis equaled the Capitol breach, as well as the 12 congressional efforts to impeach, but just as much a threat has been the High Court's duet, rulings that corporations are people and money is speech. All right, one more. And this one is inspired by our work last year to begin exploring how to go beyond even the We the People Amendment through our, what we call, Toward a People's Constitution project. And here it is. Is it enough for the Constitution to be reformed? Or is it so fundamentally deformed that the only solution for a democratic evolution is for it to be transformed? So that's that. I appreciate all of you being a part of here today to help potentially move to amend. I also very much appreciate not being in the same physical space because several things may be lobbed my way at a high speed of projectile. So anyway, just wanted to share those and now move on. It's my pleasure now to introduce Howard Switzer. Howard is a longtime educator, advocate, and organizer on a range of issues for the past decade or longer. He's been very active with the issue of monetary reform, that being how to end the privatization or corporatization of money creation. He is head of the board of the group called Alliance for Just Money. He's a supporter, has been, of Move to Amend, and he is one heck of a clever songwriter, which you will soon discover. Welcome, Howard.
Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate being here. And yes, Move to Amend has been close to my heart for a long time. I remember when David was doing his barnstorming, and I was so inspired by his effort there. This is a song, of course, this is about AFJM, and it's one of our songs. It's called Change the Money, although I did add a little piece at the end I want you to share with you. And I'm just going to sing this song, and it goes this way. The whole world is in trouble now. Everyone can see. Will human life continue? There's no guarantee. Understand the problems affecting me and you. We all need to focus on what we need to do. So let's change the money. No better way to turn the world around. Change the money. What's gone up now must come down. So change the money. Make our future bright. It's all about the money now. It's time to do it right. The big banks create credit, all our money as debt. And that is what is causing the inequity we get. Concentrating all the wealth and power to a few. Don't you think it's high time we tried something new? So let's change the money. No better way to turn the world around. Change the money. What's gone up now must come down. So change the money. Make our future bright. It's all about the money now. Time to do it right. No more bursting bubbles. No bailing out the banks. Money for production. Tell speculators no thanks. We could lower taxes, put money in everyone's pocket, and that would make the economy and take off like a rocket, and we could have an economy in a steady state. No more worries over the unemployment rate. No more corporate money choosing who we can elect. And no more corporate lobbies with a Congress we respect. When we change the money, no better way to turn the world around. Change the money, what's gone up now must come down now. Change the money, make our future bright. It's all about the money now. It's time to do it right now. Our Constitution's great, but it's just a little light on clarity of what money is, so we've got to make it right. A corporation's not a person, we need to make that clear. A construct to protect the rich, liabilities they fear. Now money cannot talk, the whole idea is absurd, but it can corrupt Congress, at least that's what I've heard. Corporate minions facilitate the war upon our world just to make more money. Their greedy flag unfurled. We've all come together here to create a better way. Amend the Constitution and support MTA. We cannot let money rule. We've got to right this wrong. We are the ones to do it, and that's why we sing this song. So let's change the money. No better way to turn the world around. Change the money. What's gone up now must come down. So change the money. Make our future bright. It's all about the money now. Time to do it right. Yeah. That's all. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you so much, Howard. That was awesome. All right. So I'm also going to be introducing the next guest, but I'm going to take a couple minutes to thank a few folks. Let me update my screen and see if there's anybody else. I want to thank Jeffrey in Nevada City, California, nearby me and Margaret. Thank you so much for making a donation. And Bill from Two Harbors, Minnesota, thank you so much. Really appreciate your support. Oh, and there are several other folks. So let me pull up where they are. Looks like we've also got to thank Tom from Oakland. Thank you so much, Tom. Really appreciate you. Judith from San Jose, California. I don't actually need to pull her up because we know her. Thank you so much, Judith. Appreciate your support in addition to what you already give every month. And then Larry from Burlington, Vermont. Thank you so much. So you can get thanked too, but really the real pat on the back is knowing that you're helping Move to Amend to further the We the People Amendment and the work that we're doing for democracy for all of us. So thanks to those lovely folks for your support. And if you haven't yet, please share this link on whatever platform. If you're on YouTube, maybe you can send an email to some folks that you think would want to know about Move to Amend. And if you're on Twitter and Facebook, it's really easy to just share this live stream right now and invite your friends to join you in tuning in here and getting an update in a fun way, but also in a creative way, and also thinking and joining with a few people who we're friends with, who do awesome work out there in solidarity, and we see ourselves as in the movement together. And one of those people is the next person that I want to introduce you to. Mark Charles is the Native American activist. He's originally from New Mexico, which is my home state as well. He's a public speaker, consultant, author, journalist, reformed pastor, and computer programmer. And he was an independent candidate for president in the US in 2020. And Mark has worked with us on a couple things. He joined one of our national leadership summits in DC as a speaker, and then was part of our People's Movement Assembly last year, where we explored going beyond the We the People Amendment and looking at how we could truly democratize the US Constitution. And I know that that is a subject near and dear to Mark's heart. He's been working tirelessly on just that. And so we wanted to invite him here today to thank you, Mark, for supporting Move to Amend for the last several years, but also thank you for the work that you're doing. And we would love you to have an opportunity to share all of that with the folks who are tuning in today. So I'll hand it over to you, Mark.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you today. I only have a few minutes, but I wanted to jump on and support this Move to Amend fundraiser for the end of the year. I have done some work with Move to Amend in the past, and I'm very excited about what they're trying to do. Before I get into just a few brief remarks, I want to just acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from what's now known as Washington, D.C. I moved here with my family from the Navajo Nation about 6 years ago. And the lands where I live now are the traditional lands of the Piscataway. And I want to thank the Piscataway for their stewardship of these lands. I want to acknowledge that they are still here. And I want to just publicly state how humbled I am to be living on these lands today. As was mentioned earlier, I have been working with Move to Amend and partnered with them in a few things. And one of the things I'm really excited about with Move to Amend is that they are not afraid to address things at a more foundational level. If you've read my book, Unsettling Truths, or you followed my campaign in 2020 for the presidency, you will know that at the core of my message is a call for a national dialogue on race, gender, and class. It's a conversation I would put on par with the Truth and the Reconciliation Commissions that happened in South Africa and Rwanda and in Canada. I'm working to address our nation's problems with race, gender, and class at the foundational level. If you read the Constitution, you will find that the way the Founding Fathers defined we the people is white landowning men. In Article 1, Section 2, they specifically exclude natives. They count Africans as 3/5 of a person, and they never mention women. That leaves white men, and technically it was only landowners who could vote. So the Constitution defined we the people as white landowning men. The Constitution, or the Declaration of Independence, 30 lines after the statement, all men are created equal, it refers to natives as merciless Indian savages. The reason our nation struggles with the things we do, race, gender, and class, is because of our foundations. We are not racist and sexist and white supremacists in spite of our foundations. We're racist and sexist and white supremacists as a nation because of our foundations. And so we have to address it at a foundational level. And that's one of the reasons I support what the Move to Amend organization is trying to do, which is they are trying to address things at a foundational level, knowing that if we don't affect these things in our Constitution, whatever laws we pass, whatever bills we pass, they're still going to be based on a bad foundation. And so I want to encourage you to consider supporting Move to Amend in what they're doing. And if you can, give them a financial donation to help them to move their amendment along, to redefine what we the people actually means. And I welcome you to join me on social media. My username on most social media, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, is Wireless Hogan. And you can follow my work there. But it's really an honor to be with you today for a few moments to talk about my support for Move to Amend. I hope that you will take an opportunity today or in the next week, next few weeks, to donate to Move to Amend. And let's begin working together to address things at a foundational level so that we can really, for the very first time, build a nation where we the people truly means all the people. Akehat, thank you so much. It's been good to be with you. I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thanks so much, Mark Charles. So good to have you here. And Unsettling Truths is absolutely correct. Whenever I read or hear anything from Mark, it gets me in that place where the kind of rage that motivates you to action, as opposed to the kind of rage that motivates you to be depressed or give up. And that's the kind of fire in the belly, energy that we at Move to Amend depend on. And it's the kind of fire and energy that I hope will fuel you to support us. And thank you for those who have, and thank you for those who will, especially if you give us a monthly donation. If you become one of our monthly sustainers with a regular gift of any amount, 5, 15, 25, 45, 55, 105. If you're right now, this month, if you're one of our new sustainers at $50 or more, you have an opportunity on the 30th when we have our last online event like today to get this great piece of art, a cartoon from Michael Ripple, wonderful cartoonist who has agreed to help us in that way. So if your recurring donation is over $50, you could win that original cartoon. So think on that and please give us a gift.
Awesome. We want to take a few minutes to talk about some of the work that we're doing, that we have been doing this year, and then going into 2022, looking ahead. And I know a couple folks, I saw a question on YouTube wanting to know, how can I get involved? How can I help? So just in case there's anyone new, Move to Amend's main campaign, there we go, Bruce, is to pass the We the People Amendment to the US Constitution. And that amendment does two things. It makes clear that only human beings have constitutional rights, not corporations. And it makes clear that money is not speech, and that our government on our behalf can regulate campaign spending, can ban campaign spending, can set caps on campaign spending, so that we do not have elections that are bought by the super wealthy, and the rest of us maybe can go vote if we can get access. And depending on who we are, that might not even be possible. So that's the campaign that Move to Amend is working on. But the reason why we do this work is, and Mark spoke well to this, the founding of this country, the founding violence of enacting the United States of America, built on slave labor and genocide and land theft, is with us still today. And it is, deeply entrenched in our laws, and our most fundamental law is the United States Constitution. And so, we see the We the People Amendment as a key strategic leverage point. However, that is not the beginning or the end of the story of how we need to make democracy real in the United States. So to that end, if you want to help us work on the We the People Amendment, the first thing to do is go to movetoamend.org/amendment. Check and see if your Congress member is yet a co-sponsor, because that's kind of like the easiest and ground level way to plug in, is to help us get your representative to support the We the People Amendment. We have 86 members of the House of Representatives who are signed on to the We the People Amendment. Our lead is Pramila Jayapal from Washington State, and then there are 85 other folks who are signed on with her. This is the most that we have had. Our amendment has been reintroduced over and over again for several years now, and each time we end with more co-sponsors, and that's the goal. So our goal between now and the end of this year is 100. And whether we make it or not, we have to keep going. But there's still time. There's still a couple weeks left in the year where your rep could come on. If you live in a place where you think that it is very unlikely that your representative would support the We the People Amendment, that doesn't mean that you can't help out. What happens in that case is sometimes we have folks who support finding constituents in neighboring districts where maybe the representative is a little bit more friendly. But then you can also lay it on your congressperson and take them to task if they are the kind of representative that stands with corporations instead of the people. And our Pledge to Amend campaign is one of the ways that we do that. We ask everybody running for office, not just Congress, but local office and every level of federal office, state office, where they stand on this amendment, because we know that this affects our local community's abilities to protect the environment, workers, just community well-being. We know that states that try to pass laws to protect the public good see those laws overturned because corporations have constitutional rights according to the Supreme Court. So this is an issue that affects anybody who wants to be a leader of the rest of us in our representative democracy. So getting your elected officials at all levels to support this movement is important, and the best time to do that is election time. So next year, going into next year, we'll have local races, we'll have state races, and there will be, federal races as well. And getting ready to make this a campaign issue for anybody who wants to represent and serve you in office is important. And that's important because for two reasons. One, people who are running at the local level and the state level, they're most likely to be the ones who will down the road also run for Congress. And so educating them, getting them on board with this movement, making them see that in order to get the support of their community, they need to take a position on corporate rule and money in politics, and they need to support this movement, means that that's how we will grow our numbers in Congress, because we don't have enough supporters in Congress at this time. Look at who's in Congress right now. We need to build that base of support from the ground up. And part of that is reaching local elected officials who are closer to the people, who know who they serve, and who are not yet corrupted by big corporate money, and who are there because they want to try and do the right thing. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is when you have somebody who is unabashedly supportive of corporate power and flagrantly opposed to real democracy, then you need to make sure that they are on record with that, so that the people who are challenging them have a leg to stand on to talk about why they would be a better representative. So Move to Amend doesn't get involved in electoral campaigns, but we do ask all candidates to take a position, and then we share that position publicly, and we are able to do that as a 501c4, and that's through our Pledge to Amend campaign. So those are two ways in the right now where you could plug in and do the work to support the amendment. George, do you have anything to add to that? I do think it would be good for us to talk a little bit about some of the other things we do too, but before we move on to that, do you have anything to add?
I don't. I want us to be able to hear from other folks, and I think you covered all of it, especially being able to call them to task if they're not on the right side of everything.
Exactly. So this live stream is not the place where we're going into deep about the work that we do. This is more an assumption that we're talking to supporters and folks who are already interested. Our website is a wealth of information. So if you go to movetoamend.org, you can learn a lot more. You can learn how to plug into the campaign to get your rep on board. You can directly contact them through our website. You can get involved with the Pledge to Amend campaign. And I also want to remind everybody that right now we're trying to raise the funds so that we can go into 2022 strong. So the link is on the screen down here. If you go to movetoamend.org/donate, then that is how you can help us right now. Ask your friends. One of the things that we're offering is that you can make a donation in the name of somebody else. So maybe there's somebody out there who inspires you, who's an activist, or who has helped educate you on what's really going on in the world. And you want to make a donation on behalf of that support that they have given to you in your evolution as a politically aware person. You can make a donation in their name, and we'll send a card their way. And you can do that. You can see where to do that when you go to movetoamend.org/donate. I want to thank Kevin from Alaska for making a contribution. And then with that, I think, sorry, I clicked away. We're next going to be handing it over to Jessica. Do you want to introduce Jessica, George? I mean, we already did, but like a little bit more.
Sure. It's my honor to introduce one of our great staffers, who I have had the blessing and pleasure of seeing evolve from a internist type person to this very, very competent, wonderful, brilliant, imaginative woman before you, Jessica Munger.
Wow, thank you so much, George. What an honor. Hi, I'm Jessica. I am Move to Amend's program director. I have been doing this work for close to 8 years now. And in that time, I've seen a lot in terms of political moments, cultural shifting, corporate power evolving and adapting, political parties manipulating, swells in the movement, stuff like that. But actually, I'm going to get personal for a moment here about something else that's happened in those 8 years that I think demonstrates why this work matters so much to me. I'm from Northern California. 3 years ago, I was living in Los Angeles and I was visiting Sacramento for a gathering of Move to Amend National Team. That's the board and staff that you're meeting today. So we're a small and very close-knit group who has been tracking and resisting the impact of corporate power for a long time together. And we were gathering to discuss that and to strategize for the next year of amendment work. After this meeting, I had plans to drive 2 hours north to visit my family in my hometown, a place called Paradise, California. November 8th was the first day of the long weekend meeting, and I got a call from my little sister in a panic, telling me that the town was burning down. She was gathering family and dogs and documents and trying to get out. Next was my mother who called, who was driving through flames, and a phone call that I think still haunts many of us on this team. They were there with me receiving this. My mom and sister survived, and we learned a few days later that my dad and grandparents did as well. What would come to be known as the Camp Fire, which was the deadliest fire in California history, killed 86 of my community members that day. And in my heart and mind, this was a mass murder by one of the most powerful energy monopolies in the state. Pacific Gas and Electric Company is a for-profit corporation which has monopolized power in much of California. This fire was started by unmaintenanced PG&E transmission lines sparking fire where PG&E was supposed to have trimmed back vegetation. And of course, it can't be separated from the conditions created by climate collapse, perpetrated by powerful corporations as well. The kindling was corporate destruction of the planet, and the spark was PG&E using faulty equipment and cutting costs in order to maximize profits. So last year, the company's CEO, William Johnson, pleaded guilty on behalf of PG&E in criminal court to 84 counts of involuntary manslaughter in front of the family of those victims. He then retired, which sounds nice. PG&E enjoys the 14th Amendment in this country. It has constitutional rights and it has the money to assert them. In the state of California, involuntary manslaughter is typically punishable by 2 to 4 years of incarceration. So by estimates, if like an actual person rather than a corporation was found responsible for this, they'd be facing 170 years in prison. Instead, the judge said that the court's sentencing options were limited because of the corporate structure and the California law that sets the maximum manslaughter by corporation fine at $10,000 per human being. And it's important to note that this is not the first time people have been burned out and chased out of their homes on Concow and Mountain Maidu land. Corporate power is a tool of oppression, and the way corporations wield it against people and planet is a way of colonization. And there's no splitting hairs about that. I'm sharing the story with you, even though it's a hard one and not the most cheery, because I want to emphasize that this work is so much more than just getting money out of politics and rallying around candidates. This is a long fight, and it relates to things much more sacred than electoral politics. A lot of people lost their everything that day. Nearly 100 people were killed, and some of them got a little bit of money, but a lot of them are still sleeping on the streets of nearby towns. And the thing is, there's no justice in a case like this, and it certainly wouldn't come in the form of money or incarceration. But the injustice is so deeply rooted in the unchecked power of large corporations and their constitutional rights. And getting money out of politics isn't enough here, because money in politics certainly plays a role in this situation. But without abolishing corporate constitutional rights, PG&E gets to murder our hometowns with zero accountability. And Move to Amend is the only organization fighting to dismantle corporate constitutional rights. It's incredibly important work, and as you might have guessed, it doesn't get funded by political parties or corporate sponsors or those who benefit from the status quo. It takes all of us who can't afford to hire a team of lawyers and lobbyists and fixers to create and assert rights for us. It's going to take us to make sure this work can happen. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to get a little bit personal, and thank you for giving what you can to Move to Amend. I promise that we steward your money responsibly and we use it effectively. Thanks again so much. Next, I'm going to introduce Jane Pendergast, a Move to Amend supporter with backgrounds in both the corporate and nonprofit worlds. She was the point person in the legislative meeting with New York Representative Mondaire Jones' office, one of our newest co-sponsors of HJR 48. So thank you so much for being here, Jane. Oh, looks like you might still be muted there.
Okay, thank you, Jessica, and thanks everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Jane Pendergast. I'm retired and I live in Westchester County, a northern suburb of New York City. She told you a little bit about myself, so I won't tell you. I received a call from Greg Coleridge of Move to Amend in October asking if I would like to participate in an effort to advance the constitutional amendment to overturn the Citizens United decision. And I said, sure. And Greg arranged a call explaining it with 3 other area Move to Amend supporters. We met digitally and he explained what we would do. After that, he set up a call with our congressional representative's policy director to advocate for the congressman to sign on as a sponsor of HJR 48. The House bill to start the amendment process. On the call, we had only 2 of us from the 17th Congressional District because although we thought we were going to have 4, because of scheduling conflicts, I was the spokesperson and I introduced us and we followed the plan Greg had given us. I thanked Congressman Mondaire Jones for supporting H.R. 1 and other recent work of his. Then I summarized the 2 parts of HJR 48, explaining it had at that time 81 sponsors, naming a few. I noted that we had sent him the text and a list of sponsors. Then Michael, a retired urologist in our district, related his testimony, a situation where he needed to obtain an okay from the insurance company for a more advanced test to learn the correct diagnosis. It sounded like a specialized type of MRI or other similar test, but it was denied by the insurer despite being clearly appropriate and necessary. I then summarized Mary Ann's testimony. Mary Ann was one of the people that couldn't be there. She's a retired Maryknoll nun who had done international work, who cited the area in Pennsylvania where fracking was begun a few years ago, despite opposition by the community, the subsequent damage to the environment, including poisoning the water and holes. You may remember. And that of Veronica, also a retired Maryknoll nun who had also done international work, who was concerned about the part played by large corporations in the prospecting and mining of heavy metals and other elements in Africa by children and others who were essentially working as slaves. My own testimony traced my early concern in 2010 after the Citizens United decision and my growing awareness of its serious threats to our democracy as it played out over the past decade. I believe the equating of the rights of corporations with that of citizens before the Constitution is at its heart wrong and destructive to our democracy of the people. I also believe that the unleashing of billions of dollars in carefully orchestrated campaign contributions, the vast public information campaigns and gifts to educational institutions, all promoting a libertarian, pro-corporate, anti-government, anti-representative democracy message has had a destructive effect on our democracy and the rights of citizens. And all this money from a relatively very small group of multimillionaires and billionaires who protect their identities through specially formed 501c4 and other nonprofit corporate names for which donors receive tax deductions, I believe, has clearly contributed to the normalizing we see now of gerrymandering and other voter suppression discussions and legislation. I noted the slick, untruthful ads we were seeing just then before the primary, this was in November, opposing proposed legislation to give Medicare the power to regulate drug costs or drug prices. These powerful influencing campaigns, combined with enormous direct campaign financing, are profoundly anti-democratic and anti-humane in my view. We need to pass this clear, simple amendment to our Constitution as soon as possible. We then summarized why we believed our congressman would be a good sponsor of the bill, then summarized our ask, which was just simply to have him sign on as a sponsor, and thanked him. A discussion followed, and Greg added a strong argument that the decisions elevating corporations to have standing before the courts has led to a number of other court decisions strengthening that standing. and thus the need to pass this amendment, which includes making both corporate campaign financing and corporate standing before the Constitution illegal, is made even more important. We agreed on a follow-up procedure of 1 week, and then learned that the very next early afternoon that Congressman Jones had already signed on as a sponsor that morning. We were elated. I think this was a well-planned and implemented advocacy effort, and I thank Move to Amend and Greg Coleridge for the chance to participate.
Well, wonderful. Thank you, Jane. You did a terrific job leading the effort, and you were an excellent representative of the constituents, both who were there physically and the two, as you mentioned, who couldn't be. So really appreciate all your, and you know, that the challenge goes on. It serves as a springboard for other communities, for other individuals in other places to reach out to their congressperson. So thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you.
All right, I'm back on with, I know we are running a bit behind schedule, so I will be quick. This is just a single poem. It was penned back in 2014, and here it is. This Sunday is the Academy Awards, which will be seen by the hordes. But a film that wasn't nominated shows how it's been dominated by those who've ruled, plundered, and oppressed, hijacking those for democracy who have pressed. Persons of the wrong gender, ethnicity, and race have never had in this nation an authentic democratic place. The film also shows how rights for corporations and big money are as realistic as the Easter Bunny. This entire system of oppression, oligarchy, and corporatocracy is documented in the short film, Legalize Democracy. For those who are not aware, Legalize Democracy is a truly short film, less than 30 minutes, that was produced. I wrote this back in 2014. It was up for an Academy Award that year, so it was put together, I guess, in 2013. Wonderful. It's on our website, and it does represent sort of a good bridge to the next person coming on. Some of the wonderful, as Caitlin previously mentioned, tremendous resources we have on our website. If you go to our YouTube channel, may already be on, there's just a plethora of videos, of webinars, of programs of all sorts on a range of topics that focus on the intersection between ending corporate constitutional rights and money as speech with other issues. You can go to our website, and I think John's going to mention, and we'll post, we have a corporate constitutional rights page on our website that lists a variety of resources. We have a place on our website of corporate rule stories. You can go to the search engine and just put corporate rule stories, and up will come, maybe about 15 or 20 different articles. So Legalize Democracy, certainly as the poem suggests, is something that I thought was well-deserved of an Academy Award, but many of our resources are, I think, award winners, if nothing else, in terms of letting people understand the true root causes of many of the problems we are facing. So check out all of the resources we have, whether they're in writing or auditory or visual, all there to help you and your friends to get on the other side of the learning curve and to empower you to develop more information and more resources to convince others that we need to get to the root of these issues. Okay, I'd like to introduce John Fioretta at this point. John has been for several years now, a very active, powerful leader, member of our Law and Research Committee, who's done, as previously mentioned, quite a bit of research, writing of many pieces that are on our corporate constitutional rights page, as well as helped organize several projects. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Greg. Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to Move to Amend's board and staff for this opportunity to talk to everyone about the Law and Research Committee. this is going to be more of a nuts and bolts presentation rather than an inspirational one. But just to let you know what another way to get involved with Move to Amend and what we're doing and how we're trying to make the job of your typical volunteer a little bit easier. I'm an attorney and have been with Move to Amend since almost the beginning and have been on the Law and Research Committee for the past several years, as Greg stated. The committee basically researches and writes papers to educate and persuade our own members, as well as the general public and elected officials, to support our amendment. So here are a few examples of the kinds of things that we've been doing. First and foremost is education. We wrote a 3-part series entitled "The Case Against Corporate Constitutional Rights" that provides specific examples, not only of why corporate constitutional rights are baseless, but how they harm us individually, our democracy, and the environment. In addition, we prepared another series called "How Corporate Constitutional Rights, how individual constitutional rights have been hijacked by corporate constitutional rights." And a third series are side-by-side comparisons of our amendment with other proposed amendment. Spoiler alert, none of the rest of them do what ours does. These papers are all written for non-lawyers. We try to make it brief, we try to make it simple, and we try to make them easy to use, both to get regular members up to speed on the issues as well as for lobbying purposes. With regard to lobbying, we've done additional work. We compiled a report that basically pulls together all the facts and arguments, at least at the time we wrote it, for our amendment. And we prepared this for Congress, and it has been distributed to Congress. In addition, we're presently seeking law professors who are experts in either constitutional and/or corporate law to sign statements in support of our basic goals, and again, to further the lobbying effort. And we've received a number of them so far. A few other things the committee does. We respond to legal questions that we receive from affiliates as well as members of Congress. And several committee members and one of the professors that we recruited have written a number of articles for both Truth Out and Common Dreams. I want to just make a few shout outs to the committee members. We are composed of Caitlin, who was a very frequently attending member until everything got too busy earlier this year. In addition, we have one retired law professor, Jan Ryan, one retired prosecutor, that's me, one JD with longtime Move to Amend and progressive activism experience, that's Judy Young. I have one non-lawyer who recently joined us, Margaret Coster, whom you already heard, who has extensive MTA and political experience, as well as Greg Coleridge as our staff, and Tony DiCario, who is our legal intern from the University of Chicago. All their efforts are greatly appreciated by me. Just want to make a few personal comments about this. Personally, I'd rather dig my own grave than ask other people for money. So I am very appreciative of the people who have put this together and are doing this to try and get more resources for Move to Amend. Personally, I'm a sustaining donor. I also really appreciate that George Friday used the analogy of a cave, because these are very dark times. Democracy is under attack all over the world, not just here. But as Joan Baez once said, action is the antidote to despair. So if you're not involved, please get involved. If you're involved, please get more involved. If you can, give. And whatever you're doing for Move to Amendment, thank you, and onward.
That was great. Thank you, John. You guys on this Law and Research Committee, and I don't think I can even be counted as there because I haven't been helpful in many months, but you are a small but very mighty team. And to the folks, listening out there, hearing what they're doing, volunteers answering, big fundamental legal questions that oftentimes, law students are sort of steered away from because we're not supposed to really be discussing and debating the philosophy of the law. It's like the law is the law, and we just need to understand what it is rather than question how it should be. And these folks are making it, understandable, digestible to regular people, which is so important because it is us regular people who are going to get this amendment passed. It is us regular people who have gotten every single social justice amendment to the Constitution passed. People who didn't allow the idea that that is something for Supreme Court justices and experts at the higher echelons of, university to only understand, but rather, people who said, no, the law may say otherwise, but a human being is a human being and slavery is wrong, or separate but equal is not equal at all. And so, just thank you, John, and everybody on the Law and Research Committee for the work that you do. And I'm not sure if we actually shared the link that Greg mentioned, but we should make sure to do that. If you can do that, Alfonso, and if not, when I pop off, I'll find it. Because the resources that this committee has developed are extensive to help regular folks. And honestly, our Congress people need this education as well. Almost none of them understand what we're talking about when we first start talking about it. They think, oh yeah, there's big money in politics. I understand that because I know I have to fundraise for, 99% of my waking hours in order to stay here in my seat. But they don't really understand all the implications of corporate constitutional rights the way that our regular folks that move to amend do. And so you can use the resources that this committee developed to help do that education. And again, not just of our Congress members, but of anybody who's looking to be a leader in your community in elected office. They need to understand these issues, and they need to understand how right now the legal system supports corporations over human beings and communities almost every step of the way, because that's the way it's set up. But we can also change that because it also hasn't always been like that. So I'm supposed to give a couple shout outs right now as well to some of the other new folks who came on, like Jane described, and were able to turn their Congress member around real quick just this year. So I want to shout out the folks in San Antonio who got Representative Castro as a co-sponsor for the first time this Congress. Folks in Arizona under the leadership of Millie Harmon, our outreach coordinator, who's going to be on in just a little bit, got Ann Kirkpatrick in Arizona, who initially was not going to get on board, but they got her by persistence and diligence. And then, of course, Jane, thank you so much for your lobbying work. And I think Jane really helped lay out how in some ways sometimes this can actually be so easy, because lots of times representatives are actually not really hearing from constituents all that much. They're hearing from paid lobbyists, and that's what they're used to. So, in this time, to have even just a few people take the time out of their day to get on a Zoom call to make the case is the compelling argument that they need to stand up. And part of that is because of all the work that we have been doing for many years that make it almost a no-brainer. And so it's like, once we can kind of pin them down, they don't really have a good explanation for why they wouldn't support. And that's why that diligence to actually do the pinning down is like 80% of the effort. And we have staff who will help you do that, who work very, very hard. But, having constituents is what makes all the difference. So many of these Congress people, I used to, before COVID, travel to DC regularly and sit down with their staff members. And, I could go and have 10 meetings, and then we have one meeting where there's 2 constituents in the room, and then they'll sign on. And so that's why you're so important to support. So it's really important that you donate, but then it's really important that you take whatever time that you can give, even if it's just, yes, I will be there for that meeting when it gets landed. You can count on me. or I will tell my friends, I will tell other people in the district. And all of us know people who live in congressional districts that are not our own. And so you could be helping us exponentially grow the number of supporters that we have by sharing the Move to Amend petition, and by asking your friends and family to stand with you. And there's room to do as much as people like John or Margaret do. But there's also room to only just do a little if you're really busy, or, maybe you have health issues and you don't have extra time, or maybe you need to be a caregiver for family members. All of that. We have room for people to be involved. No matter what else you have to do, there's space for you to also pitch in. George, is there anything you want to add?
Nope. I popped in just to try to encourage folks to remember that during the weeks coming ahead, one of the things that you can do that will be fun, because people will be looking forward to seeing you coming, is talk about Move to Amend and encourage them to maybe get online with us at the end of the month, so that they can become contributors too. When you get together with family during holidays, often, folks are annoyed or complaining, or you wind up having a really negative political argument. But one of the great things about Move to Amend is we're going to the core problem. You can validate anything they say and say, there's a lot wrong. Here's something I know that's going right. Here's something I know that can address all that. Because we're addressing the fundamental principles that guide some of the really bad practices that we're dealing with now.
And can I say one other thing about that? I think that's such a good point. And chances are that your extremely conservative, great uncle that you only see around the holiday time, who, you can't talk about anything political with, chances are that he actually probably supports this amendment. I used to serve on a water district board with a bunch of Republicans, and we disagreed on almost everything, except for when I started working on Move to Amend. When we launched Move to Amend and I was on that board, they all came to me and said, I do support what you're doing there. Yes, we don't need private interests and just a tiny number of people having more power than everybody else because of their money. I support Move to Amend too. And so this issue is like the only issue that cuts across partisan politics, not in Congress, right? In Congress, the Republicans are, all in a little team for corporate power. But everyday people understand that we have massive corruption in this country, and everyday people of all political stripes who disagree on other things, Move to Amend can be your entry point to actually build some common ground. And then who knows where you can start to go from there. I also had really interesting conversations with those Republicans, building on the support for getting big money out of politics, and then talking about other things that we probably wouldn't have been able to start with.
So, wow, it can be a bridge builder, perhaps. But just start by letting them know that we're dealing with the core issue and the root problem. So I'm reminding y'all, and I see on the screen here, this groovy cartoon that you could win from Mark Rippling. Am I saying his name right? I hope so.
Michael Ripple.
Ripple. Okay. If your monthly donation is $50 or more, if you're a new sustainer. So that would be awesome. And I think Greg has another groovy limerick or poem for us. Is it true, Greg?
Before we go to Greg, can I also just thank a couple folks that I didn't do yet? Mark from Kennesaw, Georgia, which is right near Atlanta. Thank you, Mark, for all you do and your extra donation just now. And then Joe and Karen from Missoula, Montana, where we have a very strong group of folks who have been working for a long time. Thank you both for your support. And don't forget, that's part of why we're coming together here today. So movetoamend.org/donate. Donations have started to slow a little bit. So if everybody who's tuning in has already donated, then thank you. Now you need to share. Remember to share this live stream on whatever platform you're watching, to invite your friends to come too and ask them to make a donation along with you. And yeah, let's turn it over to Greg. And thank you, Greg, for... I would only throw roses at you for this.
Well, you may be in the minority, but anyway, I appreciate that. All right, this is going a little out on a limb here. This next MTA-related poem is unique in that it is unfinished, and that's where you come in. I know people are not, on being able to speak up, so I'm going to ask that you help this poem by writing in wherever you are, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, when I point to you when I'm done reading the poem where it ends. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to read this as much as I have to, and then I'm going to point to you at the end and where you finish the poem. All right, here we go. No decree, regulation, or law is sufficient. No election of any public official is efficient. Not simply about Citizens United cursing, nor even Buckley versus Vallejo reversing. The only way to set our sights to abolish corporate constitutional rights is an amendment to end corporate personhood, a big step toward making government good. And the only proposed constitutional amendment that is great is the We the People Amendment, HJR 40. Hopefully, in the comments, wherever, my gosh, I'm already seeing. You're right. It is 48. Bravo. And that is really what Move to Amend is about. You know, together, board and staff and grassroots volunteers, people from coast to coast. Quite honestly, we need one another. Big enough, we're not strong enough, we're not powerful enough to go it alone at any level of government, any one person. We can't do it alone. The problems are too big, too systemic. We need, as Move to Amend has always said, ultimately it's about building a democracy movement that is particularly inclusive, and that means we have to build out broadly, we have to build out deeply, we have to build out authentically diverse, with diversity of all kinds. And so this poem is sort of a reflection of that goal, and really do appreciate all the ways that you have been a part of this. And one way to be a part of it is to use that last number, 8. Think of 8 as of how you can donate. Take your choice, make your choice. You can donate by making a donation of 28, 28th Amendment, 38, 48, 84, 80, whatever. So whatever may work. With 8 built in, consider that as a donation, either one time or even better, recurring. Bravo. Thanks so much.
Oh, Greg, thank you so much. One of the really fun things about working for Move to Amend is we get contributions in all of their forms. And Greg, with his limericks and messaging, just perfection. Thank you so, so much. Hi, my name is Millie Harmon. I'm the outreach coordinator for National Move to Amend. I've been very lucky to wear many hats for this organization. I began working with the affiliate in Mendocino County, then became an intern, later a staff member. I currently reside in Northern Arizona, and I'm a part of our newly forming state network. We had a big win, as Caitlin mentioned, in getting Representative Kirkpatrick, which took a lot of pushing and some very fabulous constituents that did not give up and kept knocking on that door. So as several of us have talked about, working in other movement spaces and finding again and again, there was this common overarching issue, which is that corporations wield rights at the disadvantage of actual human people and the planet that they affect. For me, the analysis that Move to Amend offers is one that is actually a tool to advance the big fundamental problems that honestly we must immediately address to move forward in any semblance of democracy and really in any future on this planet. Corporate rule feeds off of the marginalization and oppression of people, the exploitation of planet, and the destruction of communities. Passing the We the People Amendment is an important step in calling out that reality and beginning to change the dynamic of where power is held in this country from the corporate wealthy elite to we the people and the planet of which we live and gives us life. Another huge reason I've come to appreciate this organization and the hundreds of volunteers we work alongside across the country is our ability to look ahead, to plan, strategize, and adapt. From its inception, Move to Amend has looked at the big picture and mobilized with that in mind. And oh wow, how we have pushed through and adapted and actually had the audacity to progress our amendment with Congress over the last several years. I think it's incredible, and it's a true testament to what we are capable of doing. So we know we got the nerve, we know we got the skills. Please, please, please contribute to fund in all the ways that you can so we can keep pushing forward. I now want to introduce Mike Potters. Mike is a longtime coordinator of the Northwest Florida affiliate. Mike was integral to the local campaigns to pass resolutions in support of the We the People Amendment in Pensacola and Escambia County. Of the many, many ways that Mike gives to his community, music is one of them. He is joining us today with a song. Take it away, Mike.
My name is Mike Potters, and I'm one of the lead coordinators who's been with the Pensacola, Florida chapter of Move to Amend since the very beginning. I became really inspired when Lawrence Lessig was doing a presentation at the Coffee Party convention in Kentucky, but it got me fired up about the whole issue and the whole concern. And definitely corporate personhood is it's a legal lie put into the law by interpretations that were done by an activist Supreme Court. It was never part of the Constitution in the first place. It doesn't belong there. And it results in the situation we have now, where in my community, the BP oil spill happened and destroyed the sanctity of the Gulf of Mexico in ways that will never recover because of the defunding of enforcement of regulations by the federal government, and because of the weakening of those regulations, because the legislators are able to weaken these things and reduce the funding of them in a way that benefits the people who are paying for their jobs. And it's not the American people, it's the big money, deep pockets corporations. A quote that Lessig was using at the time is a Henry David Thoreau quote, very apropos. There are thousands hacking at the branches of evil to one who is striking at the root. And what we're looking to do is with this amendment, as many of you know, is we're trying to strike at the root. Anyway, power and glory. Come on and take a walk with me through this green and growing land. Walk through the meadows and the mountains and the sand. Walk through the valleys and the rivers and the plains. Walk through the sun and walk through the rain. Here's a land full of power and glory, beauty that words cannot recall. For her power shall rest on the strength of her freedom. Her glory shall rest on us all. From Colorado, Kansas, and the Carolinas too, Virginia and Alaska, from the old to the new, Texas and Ohio and the California shore. Tell me who could ask for more? Here is a land full of power and glory, beauty that words cannot recall. For her power shall rest on the strength of her freedom. Her glory shall rest on us all. Yet she's only as rich as the poorest as free as the padlocked prison door, only as strong as our love for this land, only as tall as we stand. Here is a land full of power and glory, beauty that words cannot recall. For her power shall rest on the strength of her freedom. Her glory shall rest on us all. But our land is still troubled by men who have to hate. They twist away our freedom and they twist away our faith. Fear is their weapon, treason is their crime. You can stop them if we try. Here is a land full of power and glory, beauty that words cannot recall. For her power shall rest on the strength of her freedom. Her glory shall rest on us all. On us all. I think it's particularly important that we support the Move to Amend campaign so that we'll be able to use those funds in order to actively and fully campaign for this amendment, to educate the American people and to bring it to the attention of the legislators who have to be a part of it. And it's a campaign that requires a lot of activity around the entire country, because ultimately we need to have 3/4 of the states ratify an amendment. The people of 3/4 of the states ratify an amendment. And in order for that to happen, there's a whole lot of education and clarification that has to be conducted. And it's a very expensive campaign to conduct this, especially when there's going to be a lot of big money, and there already is, that's trying to keep our message from getting through.
Well, thank you, Mike, for that tremendous message, both in musical form and verbally. Well, you all are in luck because this is the last time you get to see me and hear this missive. This was put together January of last year before, well, a couple months before all hell broke loose. So here goes. And it has, I think, a very relevant message at the end for why we're here today. Here goes. For the past decade, Move to Amend has tried to help others set their sights on not only the need to abolish big money and election and corporate constitutional rights, but to also end all oppressions and to understand that we're facing multiple crises at their heights that can only be solved not piecemeal, but systemically, which is as clear as day is tonight. Face corporations, the political elite, the super rich have incredible might, which use it to distort, act, co-opt, threaten, legally bribe, and or confuse many people from seeing the light. That authentic justice, peace, a livable world and democracy is a possible future that is bright, but can only be achieved by a powerful, independent democracy movement that has real, nonviolent bite. MTA is doing its part to work for systemic change despite finances that have always been, especially now, tight. Yet, will together, despite the odds, powers to be, even pandemics, continue this now more than ever important fight. So with your help, we can continue this fight. So help us out however you can, to whatever extent you can. And we're persevering through pandemics, through all the powers to be, all the hurdles, all the distractions, distortions, and other efforts to get us off the track of what's needed. And some of which, of course, the energy where people are putting in is very appropriate to respond to the immediate crises at hand, which are numerous and seemingly expand by the day. So those sort of immediate firefights need to be done, but need to be done in the context and put in context of the systemic crises that we're facing, multiple ones, of which the We the People Amendment is not the only thing that needs to be done systemically, but an important piece. So I now want to move and bring to the floor Lawrence Abbott, who has been an anchor supporter in so many ways of Move to Amend. He's a key member, along with Linda Jillison, of our Labor Caucus. He's a leader of the Bay Area Amend. He has been persistent, and I mean persistent, in lobbying to get his congressperson to endorse the We the People Amendment. He has vast experience in organizing, particularly in the labor community. So his message is both, I think, important to hear and comes from a view and a perspective that is extremely important, that is transferable to the work we're doing. Even though it's not labor related, it nevertheless is important in building people to people relationships. So thanks for being here, Lawrence. Welcome. Lawrence, are you there?
Yeah, I just like talking to myself.
You need to share that knowledge with the rest of us.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate that so much. It's my honor to be here. I just want to start out by saying that.
Just to let you know, your camera is not on. I don't know that or not. Yeah.
It says cam. Still not on?
Nope.
Okay, let me touch it. Now it says it's not on.
Well, we see.
Now it says it is on.
Ha. Is your are you blocking your little camera on your computer?
No.
With a piece of tape or anything?
No.
Well, anyway.
Maybe I'll be able to talk better if I'm hiding in the shadows. Just pretend I'm talking to you from a very dark room. Oh no,
yeah,
that cave
your
that we
message,
heard at the very, very beginning. Yeah,
your message is more important, so feel free.
I'm peeking out at the light. But yeah, definitely my phone, the cam is on. So maybe it's because I'm doing this from a phone. So I just love Move to Amend so much because we are really the only justice organization that works strategically to empower every other justice organization. And it's really a selfless thing. I mean, we're just creating democracy and power so that we can all win, right? So by ending Citizens United, by ending corporate personhood and money is speech, then we can empower all of the other justice movements and make it possible for all of us to win our own movements and win together. And for me, my key issues are wildlife, biodiversity, and climate, because we can't have, and of course, labor. We can't have a labor movement. We can't have, well, we're in an extinction crisis right now. We're losing biodiversity. And so that's why I moved to Amend. And I want to share with you some stuff that we've been doing locally here for about the last 10 years in the San Francisco Bay Area of California that's been winning. And we've been able to get a lot of signatures, a lot of people coming in to Move to Amend. We've been able to get all of our local Congress people to become co-sponsors, about 5 or 6 of them. And now we're moving further away, about 60 miles in other parts of the California, to keep knocking them all down. I think we already have over 20 co-sponsors in the state of California. And so one of the main things we've been doing to win is that we are asking friends and family to donate, especially this time of year when Move to Amend brings their money in, because Move to Amend really runs on a shoestring budget. And you guys, though, are so critically important to organize all the volunteers. And it really is all the volunteers that make everything happen, because you know, how can you create a constitutional amendment and pass it without a big movement of the people? So aside from that, getting the signatures and the money, we've been getting groups to endorse. And one of the best way to do that is by asking them and then helping them design support resolutions. And from the website, there's really good information. There are, draft resolutions that you can modify and make them your own. And with that, we've been able to get the Alameda Labor Council, AFL-CIO, as a co-sponsor, and they have a really great resolution that we're hoping will speak to lots of other local central labor councils of the AFL-CIO and eventually get the national behind us. Ditto with my union, with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 70. They have a great support resolution. And then with Democratic clubs, because they have a lot of power over the Dems here. And so those have helped us get a couple of really hard Congress people that are sort of blue dog Democrats that kind of reluctantly went along after too many Democratic clubs endorsed it. And of course, after some of our members like Michael worked so hard to tirelessly hound them until we won, as you've heard other people win. And then Indivisible, our local Indivisible groups, East Bay and San Francisco. So all these groups combined are very political, and they are working really hard to elect candidates. And so once we elect them, we hold them accountable, and we're asking them all to support the We the People Amendment. Another way that we've been winning, and that those ways, by the way, have been very, very successful. But another way that we've been winning is not chasing people, but they chase us, and then we can get their support. So candidates keep coming to us for donations. And this just happened to me, and I used the same technique. It worked great. Just a couple of weeks ago, they asked me for money, said a deadline was coming up. I said, sure, I'll donate to you, but I only donate to candidates who are with the people and have signed the candidate's pledge to amend. And I put movetoamend.org/pledge. She got back to me 2 weeks later and said, thanks for putting on this radar. I'll be a big supporter of this, and I will co-sponsor if I'm elected congressperson. So that's a really great way to get candidates. When they come for you for money, say, sure, I'll give you money if you're willing to give up money, if you're willing to stand with us and sign the pledge. Same thing with organizations. They're coming left and right to ask us for money, and I send them the same message. I only donate to organizations that stand with the people and that are fighting for democracy and fighting fascism. So the last thing I'd like to say is that Move to Amend really is at the root of everything that's important to us. When I hear Bob Marley sing about the movement of the people, to me, that's Move to Amend. When I hear Bernie Sanders talk about the political revolution, really, House Joint Resolution 48, the We the People Amendment, is the political revolution. So thanks again for having me on. We're the heart and soul of the good fight. All power to the people. Solidarity forever.
Thank you, Lawrence. And shout out to Linda and others who over the years have been working hard in the Labor Caucus. And Lawrence, I know you do all kinds of work, but having it grounded in your, union background. And it is so important that initially most unions supported Citizens United. And over the years since that case, realized, wow, this actually didn't help us as much as we thought that it would, because we can't really compete with corporate money. So getting the labor movement on board with the We the People Amendment is such vital and important work. And if any of you out there are a former union member or current, that's another way that you can help. We have a number of unions that have endorsed the We the People Amendment, passed resolutions, and we all know that candidates go to labor unions to look for support, and it's so powerful to say, yeah, we'll support you like Lawrence does personally, but when a labor council or a union says, but we need you to support this legislation because you need to understand why this is a critical issue for us, it can make all the difference. So thanks for your work, Lawrence. And I want to thank a couple more folks who have donated. There's still time for you to donate before we close out, but we are going to end soon, although we will be back at the very end of the year. We always, have until the end of the year to reach our goals. We're trying to raise $40,000 between now and the end of the year, because that will be matched And so your donation in December counts twice. So keep that in mind, and make sure that you contribute soon. I want to thank Stephen from Lakewood, Ohio, and James from Pasadena, Maryland, for contributing during this time. And also, if you're here and you gave and you shared, one thing that you can do when this ends is on our YouTube channel, but also Facebook and Twitter. The recording will be there. So if there's anybody that you weren't able to get a hold of live, or who maybe is at work right now, wasn't able to join us, please send them the link to this recording. We'll also send it out to our email list. So if you're on that, you'll get it. And if you're not, you should make sure to be by going to movetoamend.org/petition. But share this recording with your friends and family, and tell them why you moved to Amend, and then invite them to watch it, to tune in and learn about the work that we do and how we need them on board and on deck to pass the We the People Amendment. You want to close this up, George? And thank you everyone for being here, and we'll definitely see you again on the 30th, I hope.
Great. So thanks so much for being with us and spending this time together today. It's a wonderful fact that today is Human Rights Day, International Human Rights Day, and that the work that we do helps to create a world where humans in the US have rights, and that corporations don't have control over us. That is a hopeful vision that I appreciate you helping us support. And thanks for the support that you've given us today. Any donations that you can give that will help us towards our match. And of course, those recurring donations, especially new ones, that could qualify for this great cartoon we're going to give away on the 30th. So join us again, get more folks to join us on the 30th. Thanks for all that you do here and all that you do where you live and work. Many of the ways that we enter into the next phase of work and the next phase of, our work together, especially looking towards 2022, depends on and rests on the energy we bring into that space and time. And we do want to bring that energy of transformation, that we are going to stand and stand strong, that we are going to follow our values and our principles, so that we're not feeding into the lie of spend and overconsume and feed greed. We're going to feed into our own values and our own vision of equality, power with instead of power over, especially when it comes to taking care of ourselves, our community, our planet, and each other. Thanks so much for today. Keep up the good work, and thanks for supporting the work that we do together. We'll see you next time.
Happy solstice, everybody, and holidays, and we'll see you on the eve of the New Year Eve.
Yes.
All right. Looks like there's no one else to bring on because they've all had to jump off. All right. Well, thank you all.
Great work, Alfonso.
Yeah, good work.
Really good.
Take care, everyone.
Yep. Bye.